Hey guys, Concrete Pete here with my Essence Drain and Contagion build guide, ready for patch 3.11. I wanted to create a build guide for a skill that I've used on countless league starts that's carried me to the endgame, done all the content that I've thrown at it, and has many different ways to build once you hit maps. In the guide I will show you the skill progression that I recommend, passive trees, gear examples, bandit choices, ascendancy paths, and also upgrades you can make once you've got some additional currency. If you're liking the content that I'm putting out and would like to support me, the best way you can do it is by hitting the like button and subscribing to my channel. You can also find me live on Twitch at twitch.tv/concretepete, where I stream Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 8 PM GMT, and I'm usually doing Path of Exile content. So let's see how Essence Drain performs in maps. These next few clips are a mix of budget level setups of Essence Drain and also mid-range setups of Essence Drain. I've tried to roll the maps as best as I can. They're not extremely high-end maps, but they do deal with the highest end content. So as you can see from the clips, Essence Drain and Contagion as a combo has an amazing map clear potential paired with a respectable single target damage level. The 1-2 playstyle of Essence Drain allows new players and experienced players alike to use a skill that will clear content whilst having an approachable playstyle. One of the reasons why Essence Drain is such a good league starter is that it can be used with almost any gear you find whilst leveling. There's many paths of upgrading allowing you to upgrade as you go, rather than having to wait for that 10 exalted orb item to drop or to be available on the market. The build also has a high survivability from a high health pool, high dodge and evade chance, and also the health regen from Essence Drain itself. Through the various upgrades to the build, you can also wither and hinder enemies. Use Eldritch Battery with Mind over Matter to soak even more damage, and one thing that people sometimes forget is the ability to be constantly moving thanks to Essence Drain being a damage over time spell. The main skill you'll be using to deal damage is Essence Drain. You'll want to link this with Controlled Destruction, Void Manipulation, Efficacy, Swift Affliction, and a 6th link. For the 6th link, I'd recommend either Empower it if you're using the bow setup, or Decay if you're not. This is also the order you want to be slotting those skills into your links whilst leveling. The second skill we'll be using will be Contagion. We're not interested in increasing the damage of this skill, it's only used to spread the Essence Drain. Therefore we want to link it with quality of life gems such as Intensify, Increased Area of Effect and Faster Casting. We also have the ability to have another 6th link in our setup to complement our Essence Drain damage. Personally I use a Vol Blight setup, which allows me to stack more damage on top of Essence Drain for better single target. For that setup you will want to link Vol Blight with Infused Channeling, Void Manipulation, Efficacy, Controlled Destruction and Swift Affliction. You do also have the option of using Bane in this setup if you prefer that spell, although I do personally feel that Vol Blight does yield more single target DPS. You also want to have a Wither Totem set up in your build to be able to stack Wither on bosses. This setup is Wither linked with Spell Totem and multiple totems. You can optionally also include Increased Duration or potentially use this spare slot for another utility gem such as Phase Run or Portal. And finally you want to have your auras in your helmet, especially if you're using the Vertex helmet, as it will give you a +1 to your aura gems and your Enlighten. The auras we want to use are Discipline and Malevolence, supported by an Enlighten. I would also recommend having Flame Dash in this setup as well, so you've got a way to move around the maps and get out of bad situations. When starting out you want to be taking the starting life nodes along the tree, whilst picking up the damage nodes along the way. Feel free to use the Path of Building link or the passive trees linked in the description to see my recommended pathing. Once you hit level 20, you want to begin fleshing out your tree, while still grabbing your life and damage nodes along the way. Look to move down towards Herbalism, pathing ready for Phase Acrobatics when you're ready for that, and also picking up the points in the Lethal Assault Wheel. After hitting level 40, you can start to work on moving towards the mapping build. Pick up your major keystones along the way, such as phase acrobatics, and if your gear can support it, consider combining mind over matter with eldritch battery and wicked ward. I would recommend to be having at least 1 to 1.5k ES for this to be worthwhile, which includes your discipline aura. Once you've completed this tree, you should be able to clear maps, and providing that you're upgrading your gear as you go, you should be able to start doing the red maps. At this point I would recommend getting the mind over matter combo set up if you've not already done so, and ensuring you've capped out your resist as a bare minimum. You can also consider putting in cluster jewels at this point by taking a few extra passive points at the outside of the tree. I've included the paste bin link in the description, and I'll post the passive tree links once they are live. The paste bin contains a current 3.11 tree available and can be used with local identities path of building fork, which I'll also link in the description for you. For our bandit choice, you want to be looking at killing all and taking the 2 extra passive points, as these are really valuable on the tree. If you're struggling with your resistances, you can always pick up a Lyra whilst leveling or switching to maps, and then when you're comfortable with your gear, you can then switch back to the 2 passive points at a later point. For your ascendancy pathing, I would focus on taking one of the damage nodes first, as the defences only really kick in once you've started to get gear. First look at taking Patient Reaper. This will increase your damage whilst providing a nice quality of life via its stat restore on kill. Secondly, you want to be taking Ghost Dance. This is our first defensive ascendancy that we'll take, and offers us defences in the form of Ghost Shrouds. These shrouds give you reduced damage per shroud and recover your energy shield based on your evasion. They also give you a movement speed bonus whilst you have energy shield, which will help you with your leveling. Once you complete your Merciless Lab, ensure you are taking Escape Artist. This further increases your defense whilst you have energy shield, and also increases your evasion rated based on the amount of energy shield you've got on your helmet. Another thing that the Ascendancy also grants is increasing your max energy shield per the evasion that you've got on your chest piece. That's why we go for a high evasion chest piece to capitalise on this node. The other advantage of this node are the dodge chance it gives while you've got energy shield, and that you can't be stunned once you've got Ghost Shrouds. You also get a slight attack and cast speed per Ghost Shroud increase on this node. And lastly, once you've completed Uber Lab, you want to be picking up Prolonged Pain for even more damage. This also gives us increased skill duration, which benefits most of our spells that we use throughout the build. As you are leveling through the game, you can equip almost anything that you find. Stats I would look out for are maximum life, resists, and energy shield on your gear. For damage, you want to be grabbing spell damage, and if available, chaos damage over time multiplier. Once you're at the point where you're transitioning to maps, you can flesh out your gear a little bit more. This is what I would recommend for each slot. Probably the most important part of the gear, and the first thing that you should look at upgrading when you get the chance. On a budget, look for Cane of the Unravelling, and try to 4-link it or 5-link it. This should increase your bossing potential massively on the build. Look for life, resists, and as much movement speed as you can get. If you're low on attributes, this is a slot you can also look to gain some extra attributes. Very easy to gear with. Look for life, resistances, and a ES. This is also a slot where you can get spell damage if you get the fingerless silk gloves. If you are struggling on attributes, you can also grab those here. Depending on the price at the start of the league, the Vertex helmet is probably going to be difficult to beat. If you cannot get one or it's too pricey, then look for a helmet with resists, as high energy shield as you feel you can afford, and potentially life depending on the mods. For your chest piece, you want to be getting a high evasion chest with life and resists. If you prefer to use a unique chest piece, then on a budget you can look for items such as Kintsugi, or depending on the cost you can potentially pick up Perfect Form. Very similar pieces, cap out your resists for whatever you're missing, and look for potential life. If you still need attributes, this is another place where you can grab them. Potential damage mods would be Chaos Damage over Time Multiplier or Spell Damage. My personal favourite in this slot is a well-rolled Stygian Vise with life and resists. If you have the option for an onslaught on kill Abyssal Jewel, that works wonders here as well. The benefit of this style of setup is that all the slots can be filled for a few chaos, except the weapon, which may be your most expensive part, but it'll still be affordable. For flasks, you want to make sure that you've got a staunching flask to remove bleeding. I'd highly recommend a Witchfire Brew to give the Despair aura and give you more chaos damage over time, a Quicksilver flask for your movement speed, and then your last 2 slots can either be other utility flasks such as a Jade flask for increased evasion. If you're struggling on mana because you're not using the Eldritch battery setup, you can use an Enduring Eternal mana flask, and that will sort out your mana issue for you. If you don't need this 5th slot, you can look at an Aquamarine flask or another defensive flask of your choice. Once you start to get your currency flowing in, you can look at upgrading your gear to increase your defences and your damage. The first place I will look to upgrade is to a ball like this, which when you socket your essence drain in with an Empower will greatly increase your DPS. This also allows you to use a quiver, which I would recommend to use Soul Strike. This helps with your Eldritch Battery and your Mind Over Matter setup. Other notable upgrades would include Hyri's Ire Chest with a 10% spell and attack dodge, as well as having a high evasion rating. This particular chest can be hard to colour, so what I would recommend colouring via is the Verici Jeweller's method. I'll link this in the description for those that do not know that, but it'll save you a lot of fusions if you do it this way. Two other upgrades you can look for is a Watcher's Eye with Chaos Multi whilst under Malevolence, a high ES Hubris Helmet with -9 Chaos Resistance modifier to enemies. These will be one of your most expensive upgrades, so I would consider doing these last. If you load the building path of building, I'll also include additional upgrades for every other slot in that. Thank you for taking the time to watch the build guide. I hope you enjoyed it, and if it did help you, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more Path of Exile content coming in the next few weeks. You can also join our Discord server, where you'll find like-minded people, share build ideas, ask questions, and also group together. I'll put a link for that in the description. And don't forget, you can always catch me on Twitch, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 8 PM GMT at twitch.tv/ConcretePete. And if you guys have any questions at all, please feel free to comment or drop me a message on Discord, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks again, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.